Strong Conversations.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Strong Conversations, Hot Takes from a Cultural Firebrand. Still your host, Dr. Carolyn Strong, said Cultural Firebrand. So today, as always, we're going to let a word spark every thought and ignite change, one conversation at a time. So today's conversation, we are talking about equity in filmmaking. We've heard a lot about the cavern that is equity in filmmaking, how Black films are being made, how Black films are being budgeted, when Black films are being recognized, and things of that nature. So today, of course, y'all know how I get down. I don't have these conversations without experts. So per usual, I have one. Today we will be talking with one half of Lewis Taylor Productions. We'll be talking with Miss Sakita Taylor Lewis, and we're going to talk about your film. Hey girl, hey.
Hey, how are you?
I am awesome. How are you?
I am wonderful.
That's good.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. You know I couldn't have this conversation without you. Y'all out here doing the thing.
We're trying.
And I feel like not enough people know y'all are doing the thing. So that's why I want to kind of pop in here and do what I can to help more people know what you all are doing and why you all are doing it. However, I got to stop for a minute because, again, on this platform, you are the you expert. So you tell me about you before we go any further.
Okay, so I am, like you said, one half of Lewis Taylor Productions. We started our film company back in 2014. And, prior to that, I've always been enamored with entertainment. I've always been a creative writer, but I've put all that kind of on the side as a bit of a hobby. I think when you think about filmmaking and the entertainment industry, you just, as a child, that wasn't something that was presented as this is a career. This is something
So
you
you
go
trying to
after.
tell me Running Bear don't count?
Running Bear
That's what you're telling
counts.
me?
So
The film we made in 9th grade don't count.
our very first film with our dear friends Rachel and who else was in Running Bear?
Oh, Demetrius.
Demetrius. We had all of our friends came together and made a film in 9th grade. It was amazing. I will claim
Not
it as
Pulitzer,
amazing.
Oscar worthy.
Oscar worthy. But even then, I didn't think of it as a career. We were very much in that cookie cutter of, doctor, lawyer, engineer, those types of careers of what I could go and do. And so I took that route, always, though, having this kind of fascination and love of content and entertainment. And so fast forward, when I met my husband, who's an actor, I started to support him in his acting goals. And that pushed me into this world of creating content for myself. And that's where our company started. So we started back in 2014. We shot our first feature film, Jericho, that year in the festival circuit in 2016 and 17. We won a ton of awards, had a great first film. We had 5 best films from our time on the festival circuit with that film. Before coming to the film that we're talking about today, Impossible, which we have shot over the last couple of years and are just now having its world premiere last year at the Austin Film Festival, and we'll be taking that film on to the next festivals. Our next stop is the Pan-African Film Festival in Los Angeles next week.
But didn't you all win an award already?
We did. We just this weekend. So we hit our second festival this weekend at the Denton Black Film Festival here in Fort Worth, Texas, and we won a Best Feature Film award there. So we're super excited. That's our first award for this film.
That's good. And you brought a clip.
And I brought a clip.
Before we move forward, I do want to show the clip so that everything that we're talking about is in context. Y'all know the teacher in me has to
Yes.
have context. I have to.
And I'm happy to set it up. So,
Go
the
ahead.
film Impossible is inspired by my husband's type 2 diabetes diagnosis and the conversations that we started to have about what needs to change. How are we going to prolong and save his life turned into this project for us. So it became an accountability partner for us, for him, but it also became a way for us to help encourage conversations about health, about type 2 diabetes, because we don't talk about it in our community, even though we're at such a higher risk of having type 2 diabetes. We don't talk about it until
Do you know the numbers by chance?
We're twice as likely
Okay.
to have type 2 diabetes, and not just in the African American community, but communities of color, so Hispanic, Native, all have higher likelihoods of type 2 diabetes than the majority. And so we don't talk about it until someone has a complication from it. And so that was the impetus and the inspiration for this film. So this is a film based on Brandon's real life, based on real things that happened to him. And this is his story of how he got to where he is and how he wants, and how this character is going to work to change and save his life. So that's my setup. So now you can watch the clip.
Okay.
327.
327 pounds. Are you kidding me? This is the part where I say to you, everything you've eaten your entire life is killing you.
Go ahead, boy. We deserve it.
Do you want to die?
Being black was hard, but being black and fat, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
To really turn this around, you've got to do the impossible.
Are you lost? Not anymore, sir.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So, just a quick question. Since this is so heavily inspired by the things that you and Brandon have gone through, why this and not a documentary?
That's a great question. When we were having that conversation, we said, is it a documentary? Is it a narrative? What should it be? And we really wanted to capture people who don't watch documentaries. A lot of our friends and family, if it's a documentary, we're going to turn it off. There's a ton of great documentaries around healthy eating and how to change our lives, but we wanted to do it from this perspective because we wanted to entertain people, pull people in, and hopefully get them thinking differently about their health. A little bit of a Trojan horse, I guess, approach to making the film, but that's why not a doc.
No, I mean, now that you say that, it makes sense. I love documentaries, but I also know that usually when I'm watching them by myself. Right. Because everybody else has left. Oh, like, here she go. And everybody else has left the room. And I'm like, but listen, but wait, this is awesome. And they're like, So, right. So now that you're saying it, that does make sense.
Yeah.
And I do want to ask you this because, I am a living, breathing, consummate student of equity. And Lewis Taylor Productions has been very intentional about telling stories for, by, and that impact us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why that decision? And I'm sure it's come at a cost.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. The films that we've done are somewhat controversial, to your point of, will they work for everyone? Do people want to hear this message? I think our first project, and all the projects we've done them because they felt important. With Brandon's type 2 diabetes diagnosis, we knew that if we made this film, we could really help other people. Right. But it was selfish in that, hey, this is something he's doing for himself as an accountability partner. And we co-wrote this script together for our family so that he could be here for our daughter, for each other. So it was selfish in that way. But it was also like, we know how impactful it can be if we can get one person to look, if he can be successful and one person could look at him and say, well, if that guy can do it, I can do it. Then the impact that it could have. So it felt divinely ordered, like we need to go do this. It's something that's going to help other people, and that's why we want to make it. With our previous projects, I think the same thing. The film Jericho started off as just a slapstick silly comedy, but as we started to unpack it and we started to take it back to the 1960s, we realized, hey, this is a story that we can kind of teach and educate about our history, and under the guise of a silly comedy, but we can really teach and learn something. So it's a satire, right? It's got some very heavy underpinnings of what's happening in that time period, sugar coated with a satirical comedic relationship between best friends. So, some of the best films out there do that in a way that, one example is Life. Like, that was one of the films that was an example for us, like, of wanting to have that impact. Life was heavy, right?
Yeah,
life in prison and what happened to our ancestors during that time period happened often. But it's one of the funniest movies that you've ever seen, right? Because of their relationship and because of everything that of how they made that film. And so that was
I was going to say it's the funniest film you've ever seen because of Ida Pappy, but that might just be my personal.
I mean, at least. But are you gonna eat your cornbread? I mean, there's so many great lines from that movie that make it memorable.
That was about chain gangs.
But it was about chain gangs and being in the continuation of slavery through the prison system during that time.
The proliferation of carceral systems from slavery through Jim Crow through mass incarceration. Absolutely.
Yes. So that's kind of been our inspiration, that we want to do it. Making a film is hard. So if you're going to go through that, you want it to make an impact and you want it to do something for your community.
So being that mindful and intentional, do you feel it's come at a cost?
Yeah, I do. In some way, shape, and form, and in some ways not, right? I think, when people see and hear what the goal of our film Impossible is, I think it's inspiring to them. But at the same time, I do think sometimes, folks just want something that's not going to make them think, so when it comes to thinking about how to get projects out, having ones that are more thoughtful or impactful sometimes can slow down your process, but I think it finds its way to the right home, to the right, distributor, to the right person who wants to also make that impact. So I think it's a little bit maybe of a different path, and sometimes a slower path to go that route. But ultimately, I think it'll find, the right way to come to life.
Well, I see just from even in the trailer, like you've got some heavy hitters in this trailer. So somebody's believing in the engine that is Lewis Taylor Productions. So talk to me about that.
I think that's a great point. So in the film, we have Sherry Shepherd, we have Jo Marie Payton, who we know as Harriet Winslow from Family Matters and Sugar Mama from Proud Family. And we have Greg Daniel, who is from True Blood and Insecure. So we've got some great cast members. And to your point, if the film wasn't about what it's about and wasn't as earnest in trying to make the impact that it is, we may not have been able to attract such amazing Hollywood talent to be a part of the film.
Is Irma P. Hall in this one? Because I know
and Miss Irma P. Hall makes a cameo. Yes, we are so blessed to have her. And so she does a cameo for us in the film.
So I just wanted to be intentional about saying, well, somebody clearly somewhere
yes.
is believing.
And when I tell you, they all of those people are amazing, but all of them have been touched personally by type 2 diabetes, family members or themselves. And so they are part of the film because they love the message and what the film is trying to accomplish. And so I'm very grateful to have all of them as a part of it.
So it kind of rolls right into my next question of how do you navigate? Because at this point, you all have branded yourselves a certain way in terms of the stories that you're going to tell that are going to be for us.
Yeah.
How do you navigate the responsibility of these sometimes historical portrayals and cultural narratives while still having your unique artistic vision?
Yeah, I think what we've done in the past and even now is just having the right amount of research and bringing on experts and people can help support us to make sure we're doing things the correct way. There's a scene in Impossible where Brandon is getting learning about diabetic retinopathy, and so he wrote
Is
that scene.
that the blindness?
Yes, that's
Okay.
yes, that's the one of the leading cause of blindness is diabetic retinopathy. And so there's a scene where the doctor's telling him about it and explaining things. And Brandon's like, this is word for word what my doctor told me. And I was like, that's great. But we shot that at my eye doctor's office, and she, was like, can you, we had the consultation of looking over our script to make sure we're giving the correct information, to make sure, like, because it is the responsibility, you're giving people this information. And so you want to make sure that it's the correct information.
You don't want people going to their doctor asking for the googly gooks.
Right. Like
I said in the movie, I'm supposed to come ask for a googly gook.
Right. So, it's the responsibility is making sure that your stuff is right, first of all. So getting the experts, in our film, being about health, there's a lot of roads to health. There's a lot of roads to type 2 diabetes. It also is an example of something that we really wrestled with. Brandon's particular path to type 2 diabetes included that obesity makes you, that much more likely to get type 2 diabetes. And so his story included that, the unhealthy eating, the lifestyle choices, and he had the heredity as a part of it. And so we're telling his story. Well, there's lots of ways, type 2 diabetes can come to anyone of all shapes and sizes. And so it's not always about obesity. It's not always about that. And so, we did wrestle with, do we need to show a bunch of other stories? But we decided, well, this is Brandon's story. So it's not intended to be a cure-all or an explanation on everything that has to do with the type 2 diabetes, but it is Brandon's specific story of his path and how he's trying to get out of where he is.
I like that answer. It's his story.
It's his story.
And there are other ways which people will find out once they start kind of doing the research for themselves.
Exactly. We're hoping that if you walk out of this film, you're like, man, I should go to the doctor. That at least, if you're getting your annuals and you're having those checkups, maybe you're set, but maybe you're a person like Brandon who didn't go back to the doctor for 2 years when his doctor
told him. I didn't realize it was
2 years after his doctor told him he was pre-diabetic. He just, he put up the denial. He didn't go back, and he didn't go back until he felt sick. Like, I feel bad, so I probably should go figure out what's going on. And then that was his diagnosis. And so, a lot of times we're in denial. We don't know. So we're hoping that when people walk out of the film, they're saying, I should go figure out what's going on with me. And A, and then B, if there is something that they need to address, they feel empowered and inspired that maybe they can turn it around. It's not too late. If you're pre-diabetic, you can curb it before you become diabetic. If you have diabetes, you can manage it with diet, exercise, learning how to manage your medication, and hopefully ultimately not needing those medications is the ultimate goal. But it can be done. It just feels so insurmountable when a doctor tells you, okay, you need to lose a bunch of weight, or you need to change everything that you know. And so we're all, in our routines that we have. It's hard to change your routine. And so we're hoping this film tells people that you can do it. It's hard, but you can do it one day at a time, one step at a time.
And two, he's not alone in that. I think that's something that we suffer from culturally in terms of not wanting to go to the doctor, or not having a doctor, or not trusting the doctor, or honestly just not being mentally ready for whatever the doctor may find, which is what happens a lot, is that people just aren't mentally ready. Like, he's gonna tell me I'm sick. Yeah, probably.
Right. Probably. But guess what? In most cases, if he tells you that you're sick early enough, there are things that they can do.
You won't be sick anymore.
So you won't be sick anymore. And there's, the line with the doctor, she says, we can address this, but if you wait too long where it's too late, then it's not reversible, right? So being proactive and having those conversations with your doctor then can stave off a lot of the things that we're afraid of.
So I won't keep you too long, but I got a couple more questions. I guess because again, you all are telling stories foreign of the culture. How do you balance or approach, I should say, the challenge of dealing with potential stereotypes and misconceptions about the
Yeah.
community that could come through your work?
Yeah. I think it kind of goes back to our last conversation around, you know, does obesity mean diabetes, or does diabetes mean obesity? In Brandon's story, he has both, but it doesn't always come together. And when we were kind of wrestling with how to tell the story, we're like, this is his story, so it's authentically true. And so it may play into a stereotype that people assume about someone who's overweight and what might be going on with them. You don't know. But it may play into a stereotype. But at the same time, this is authentically something that we needed to address. And we didn't want to be afraid of it potentially stepping on a stereotype, and not help the people who are in Brandon's same situation. So what we try to do is like our tagline for our company, or like the types of stories we want to tell, are provocative stories that make you that get a reaction, whether it's you're laughing, you're crying, you're learning, you're being impacted, but also showing protagonists that we don't normally see, people that are often marginalized, often underestimated. And so that's the other way that we try to go about that as well. We want to show, like Brandon, the fat funny guy is what Brandon had been branded at in his life. He was Brandon Snack Bar Lewis, which is a childhood nickname that he got. And now he's like, I'm Brandon Keith Lewis, which is his actual middle name. But, because I don't want to be the stereotype and I want to be here. So that's the other way that we think about it.
Okay. I mean, there's not really much more to say for that. But I will ask this for the aspiring filmmakers out there. If you had to leave them with three things.
Three.
We're talking about, I got an idea, a pen and a paper and an iPhone. Or iPad.
Yeah.
What are the three things that you telling these people? As somebody who's done it or doing it.
Yeah. I would tell them it all starts with a script. So taking the time to write the script, learn how to write a script, study what that looks like, and then write it and then copyright it. So protect your work. And then two, I would say, practice, make stuff. I think it's funny, when we made our first film and we were contacting some of the talent in Hollywood, they said to us, wow, lots of people tell me they're going to make a movie, but you guys are just making a movie. Like you.
Well, I got questions about this one though.
Uh-huh.
When you say it all starts with a script and you say, learn how to write it, what does that look like? What is learning how to write a script?
So
are we
online,
going to the learning annex, or where we
going? There's lots of resources online where you can read scripts. So find your favorite movie and do a search for the script to your favorite movie, or something that might be similar in the space that you want to go to, or just really your favorite movie, because that'll be the only one that you want to read a 90-page screenplay for. And search for it and read it, because scripts are formatted in a very specific way, right? And so if you're trying to bring on talent or someone else, if it doesn't look like that, they won't even be able to absorb it. I think a lot of us, what we know about writing is creative writing, right? Because that's what you do in school. Everyone knows how to do that. So when you write a script, it's different from writing a novel or a short story. You don't describe things in a script the way you would in a short story, because it's a show, don't tell world. So I wouldn't say Carolyn feels sad as she looks out the window. You would say Carolyn looks out the window, right? You don't get a lot of, and she's looking at photos of her childhood. So the actor from that knows, oh, okay, these photos are making her sad, so I'm going to figure out how to do that. So you don't describe, you show when it comes to writing a script. And so it's a very specific way of doing it. So I would say Google some of your favorite scripts and just read a bunch of them and learn that format. There's a lot of books on on structure. So the 3-act structure that you find in most films, that is kind of table stakes. There's books like Save the Cat is a popular book around all of the sections of the script. So, the beginning of the script where you're trying to like just get the audience to understand the world that the protagonist is in now. Then the catalyst, the thing that happens that makes that shakes up that world and makes them do the thing that the movie is all about. And then, that area where they're trying to do the thing and it seems like it's working out. But then there's always that cliff, right? Where, oh, now everything went to crap. Nothing's working. So there's several
I feel like that's
where,
what they should call it, by the way. It shouldn't be called falling action. It should be called now everything went to crap.
Everything went to crap, right? So there's several books out there that I would just Google, go to the library.
There are classes too, right? Script writing classes.
Yeah, lots of classes.
Okay. And your second thing, because I got caught up in your first thing. Sorry.
What was my second thing? Oh, practice. So, and like I said, it starts with a script, but make sure you copyright your script once it's done, once it's ready. And then get feedback on it, right? Because you do want to make sure that, like I said, making a film is a lot of work. And so you want to put the time in at the beginning to prepare so that you have the best possible product going into the process. And then, like I said, practice. So start shooting things. Like I said, if your film is one that may take more resources or may take more time, then I would say just start shooting in order to learn the craft. And so whether you're saying, hey, I'm just going to shoot a teaser for my film so I can learn the processes and I can learn what that takes, that's a great idea. You're getting some content for your script or for your project that maybe you can use when you want to go and like pitch for money or bring people onto the project, but you're also practicing. So you're learning how to get it done. And then the last thing I would say is don't be afraid to make changes. So through the process of, you'll often be told a movie is made 3 times. So when you write it, when you shoot it, and when you edit it. And so once you get to editing, when you get to editing, you might be like, well, we ran out of money, we ran out of time. We didn't shoot everything the way that we wanted to. I didn't get everything that I wanted. So when you're editing and putting it together, it may actually change your film a little bit from what you originally thought it was going to be, but that may be okay. So often, you might have a favorite.
Is that why reshoots happen?
Yes, reshoots happen all the time because you're like, we didn't get the coverage we thought we got, or it's not working in some way, shape, or form. And then often there may be a scene that you absolutely love. It's your favorite scene in the whole movie, but for some reason it doesn't work in the flow of everything else anymore. Not being afraid to like pull that out because it doesn't work anymore. We had several scenes like that in Impossible because we shot a lot of stuff. But they just didn't work anymore in the final version. So, those scenes will eventually be deleted scenes that we'll put on the website or
on the DVDs. Do people
right. People still do, not the way that they used to, but those
but you
things
can still do bonus content on streams, right?
You can, yeah.
Okay.
And so that kind of stuff is where that's where that kind of stuff will go, because you want to make sure you're always in service of the story. And so you can't get too caught up on what you thought it was going to be or any of those things. We've had to cut people out of our film that we love and we love their performances, but when it didn't work, you start having to shave it and shave it and shave it. It's 84-minute movie, and that's kind of where you want it to be in order to make sure the story is tight and that you don't lose people when they're watching it.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So how can people support the work you're doing? What does that look like? What does being able to support Lewis Taylor Productions look like?
Yeah, I think right now it's just following us on our socials. If you've seen the movie, so if you've come to any of the festivals that we've been in, like I said, Austin Film Festival, Denton Black Film Festival, please go make a review about the film and like I said, like our social medias, Lewis Taylor Productions, and then the one for the film Impossible the movie, and just stay with us, stay in the journey with us. And then once we're ready to announce distribution for the film, watch it. Get out there.
That was going to be my next question. Has that happened? Or are you?
We're still in the process. Yeah, still in the process now. But when the time comes, we'll be posting it all over our socials. So take a moment and go watch it, leave a review, and tell your friends about it. But for now, just tell your friends about the journey, get them to join us on our social media as we keep moving.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you being here to talk about this film. And again, this platform is always going to amplify people that are in the community, helping the community, telling the community stories, and living in equity. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for elevating for the culture.
I try my best to elevate the culture, and that's all I have, unless you want to add anything else.
No, I can't think of anything else to add.
Well, if that's the case, then I'm going to close us out. I appreciate y'all for watching Strong Conversations, Hot Takes from a Cultural Firebrand. Until next time, don't forget to step into your truth. Always stir up good trouble and spark change. Let's embody authenticity, challenge the norms, and remember that you are, in fact, capable of changing the world one conversation at a time. So until next time, have a good one, y'all.
Bye.